The galaxy heard Earth's voice one final time, calm, steady. We offered peace. You chose war. A pause echoed across every star system. Then came the last words, cold as the void itself. Now you will meet the other side of humanity. And the transmission ended. The breaking point ambassador David Torres stood in the observation dome of Unity Station, watching Earth rotate peacefully below. 25 years he had served as humanity's chief negotiator with the collective. 25 years of patient diplomacy, cultural exchanges, and carefully worded treaties. 25 years of trying to convince 8 alien species that humanity deserved a place among the stars. The communication panel behind him chimed. Torres turned, his silver hair catching the light from Earth's reflection. His assistant, a young woman named Sarah Chen, looked up from her console with concern etched across her face. Ambassador, the collective representatives are requesting an emergency session. They say it's urgent. Torres nodded slowly. He had expected this. Intelligence reports over the past month had shown unusual military movements in collective space. Ships gathering at strategic points, supply lines being reinforced. The signs were clear to anyone willing to see them. Tell them I'll be there in 10 minutes, Torres said. He took one last look at Earth, memorizing the blue and green sphere that had been humanity's home for millions of years. Something told him this view might be changing soon. The conference chamber was a marvel of diplomatic architecture, designed to accommodate the different atmospheric and gravitational needs of 9 species. It represented everything humanity had tried to build with the collective: cooperation, understanding, peace. Torres entered through the human section and took his seat at the circular table. Around him sat the 8 representatives of the collective species. The insectoid Kralith clicked their mandibles nervously. The aquatic Nereids floated in their specialized tanks. The massive stone-like Gorons sat motionless. Each species so different yet united in their alliance. High Chancellor Vex of the Theron Empire spoke first. His reptilian features showed no emotion. But Torres had learned to read the subtle color shifts in his scales. Right now, they showed contempt. Ambassador Torres, the Collective Council has reached a decision regarding humanity's petition for full membership. Torres kept his expression neutral. I'm listening, Chancellor. Your petition is denied. Furthermore, the Council has voted to revoke humanity's trading privileges and recall all human colonists from collective protected space. The words hit Torres like physical blows, but he maintained his diplomatic composure. May I ask the reasoning behind this decision? Vex's scales rippled with what Torres recognized as amusement. You may. The Council has determined that humanity represents a fundamental incompatibility with collective values. Your species displays excessive emotional attachment to individual lives. You prioritize sentiment over logic. You show weakness where strength is required. We prefer to call it compassion, Torres said quietly. Compassion is evolutionary failure, Vex replied. The strong survive. The weak perish. This is universal law. Humanity refuses to accept this truth. You build hospitals for the dying instead of letting nature select the fit. You waste resources on the elderly and infirm. You cry over individual deaths while we measure success in civilizations conquered. Torres felt his heart racing but kept his voice steady. The collective charter guarantees the rights of all sentient species to self-determination. You cannot force us to abandon our colonies. Vex stood, his full height impressive even among the gathered representatives. The charter is a document written by the strong to manage the weak. Consider it revised. You have 30 days to evacuate all human presence from collective space. After that, any human ships or stations will be destroyed. You're declaring war, Torres said, the words barely a whisper. We are eliminating a problem, Vex corrected. Your species had 25 years to prove yourselves worthy. Instead, you showed us that humanity is too soft, too weak, too concerned with feelings to survive among the stars. We are simply accelerating the inevitable. Torres looked around the table at the other representatives. Some avoided his gaze. Others stared back with expressions ranging from pity to satisfaction. None spoke in humanity's defense, I see, Torres said, standing slowly. Then I have one final statement to make as Earth's ambassador to the collective. Vex gestured magnanimously. Speak. We will listen to your final words with the respect due to a dying species. Torres activated his personal communicator, ensuring his message would be broadcast throughout the station and transmitted to Earth. For 25 years, Humanity has pursued peace with the collective. We shared our art, our music, our literature. We opened our worlds to trade. We taught our children your languages. We believed that different species could coexist through mutual understanding and respect. He paused, letting his words carry weight. We were wrong. Not about peace, but about you. We assumed that any species capable of space travel would value life. We assumed that intelligence implied wisdom. We assumed that you would recognize strength and restraint. Vex's scales darkened with anger, but Torres continued. You believe our compassion is weakness. You think our reluctance to kill makes us soft. You mistake our patience for cowardice. But you have made a critical error in your analysis of humanity. Torres's voice grew harder, each word deliberate. We didn't choose peace because we were weak. We chose peace because we know what we become when we choose war. For millions of years, humanity fought itself. We developed weapons that could crack planets. We created biological agents that could end all life. We learned to kill with efficiency that would terrify you. And then we chose to stop. The chamber had grown silent. Torres felt 25 years of diplomatic restraint falling away. We built the United Nations not because we couldn't fight, but because we were too good at it. We created the diplomatic corps not out of weakness, but out of fear of what we might do if we ever unleashed our full potential again. We chose to be builders instead of destroyers. We chose to be teachers instead of conquerors. We chose to be diplomats instead of warriors. He looked directly at Vex. But you have taught us that the universe doesn't reward those choices. You have shown us that our restraint was not appreciated but exploited. You have demonstrated that peace is only possible between equals, and you refuse to see us as equals. Torres reached into his jacket and pulled out a small crystal device. This is my final act as Earth's ambassador. I hereby dissolve the diplomatic corps and relinquish all authority to make peace with the collective. He crushed the crystal in his hand, and across human space, emergency protocols activated. On distant moons and hidden asteroids, installations that had been dormant for decades began powering up. In deep space, ships that had been drifting in cold sleep started warming their engines. On Earth, military commanders who had been kept in reserve their entire careers received activation codes. You wanted to see what humanity looks like without compassion, Torres said. You demanded we prove our strength through violence? Very well, but remember this moment. Remember that you forced this choice. Remember that we offered you friendship and you chose to be our enemies. Alarms began blaring throughout Unity Station. Vex looked at his tactical display and his scales flashed white with shock. Across collective space, human installations were disappearing from sensors. Ships were going dark. Colonies were evacuating with military precision. What have you done? Vex demanded. Torres smiled without humor. I've given you what you asked for. The collective wanted to meet humanity without our diplomatic restraints. Now you will. But I warn you, Chancellor, be careful what you wish for. The humans you've known were our best selves. The humans you're about to meet are something else entirely. 300 light-years away, Fleet Commander Elena Vasquez opened her eyes in a hibernation pod aboard the battleship Retribution. Around her, 15,000 other pods were cycling through wake-up protocols. In the observation window, she could see dozens of other ships powering up, weapon systems coming online after 50 years of silence. A message appeared on her display. One word in Ambassador Torres's handwriting, failed. Vasquez smiled grimly and activated the ship-wide intercom. All personnel, this is Commander Vasquez. The Shadow Protocol is now active. For 5 decades we've waited, hoping this day would never come. But hope died with the peace treaty. Now we show the collective what happens when humanity stops pretending to be civilized. Prepare for war, real war, human war. The collective had declared humanity too weak to survive among the stars. They were about to learn why humans had survived every predator, every disaster, every enemy their home world had ever created. They were about to discover that the most dangerous species in the galaxy wasn't the one that never learned to kill. It was the one that learned to kill perfectly and then chose not to, until the choice was taken away. The awakening, the war room deep beneath Geneva, had not been used in 50 years. Now it hummed with activity as holographic displays filled the space with tactical data. Fleet Commander Elena Vasquez stood at the center, her dark eyes scanning dozens of screens simultaneously. Around her, officers moved with practiced efficiency, coordinating operations across hundreds of light-years. Status report, Vasquez commanded, her voice cutting through the controlled chaos. Captain Morrison stepped forward. Ma'am, Shadow protocol activation is 97% complete. All Ghost fleets are operational. Deep space installations have powered up. Personnel recall is ahead of schedule. We have 412 capital ships ready for deployment, with another 200 coming online within 48 hours. Vasquez nodded. The numbers were impressive, but they represented only a fraction of humanity's true preparations. For 5 decades, while diplomats smiled and offered peace treaties, military planners had been working on contingency plans, not because they wanted war, but because they understood that hope was not a strategy. A new face appeared on the main display. Dr. James Carter, looking older than his 60 years, spoke from his laboratory on Luna. Commander Vasquez, the weapon systems are ready for deployment. All ethical restrictions have been lifted per Shadow Protocol authorization. Vasquez felt a chill. She had read the files on what Carter's team had developed, weapons designed specifically to terrify, technologies that targeted not just bodies but minds, systems that could break the will to fight without firing a shot. Humanity had spent 50 years studying every collective species, learning their fears, mapping their weaknesses, preparing for the day when diplomacy failed. Dr. Carter, I need your honest assessment. Can we win this without becoming monsters? Carter's expression grew somber. Commander, we stopped being the innocent species the moment we started building these weapons. The question isn't whether we become monsters. The question is whether we can stop being monsters once the war is over. The words hung in the air. Vasquez thought about Ambassador Torres. About 25 years spent trying to prove humanity deserved a place among the stars. All that effort, all that hope, destroyed in a single conversation. Then we fight smart, Vasquez said. We show them strength, but we remember who we are. Begin Phase 1 operations. Target their supply lines, communication networks, and military infrastructure. Avoid civilian casualties where possible. I want the collective military blind, deaf, and starving within 2 weeks. Across collective space, human ships emerged from hiding like ghosts materializing from darkness. They moved with precision that shocked collective sensors operators. These were not the slow, peaceful merchant vessels the collective had grown accustomed to. These were predators, designed for one purpose. The first strike hit a major collective supply depot near the Theron border. 12 human destroyers appeared without warning, launched their payloads, and vanished before defensive systems could respond. The depot, which supplied 3 entire battle fleets, was reduced to debris in under 4 minutes. High Chancellor Vex received the report while reviewing invasion plans for human colonies. He read it twice, unable to believe what he was seeing. How did they get ships past our sensor networks? He demanded. His intelligence officer, a Krylith named Seek, clicked nervously. Chancellor, these ships use technology we have never encountered. Their stealth capabilities exceed our detection systems by several magnitudes. And their weapons, the precision is impossible. They destroyed only military targets. Not a single civilian structure was damaged. Vex crushed the datapad in his claws. Impossible. The humans do not have this technology. We have monitored their development for decades. They build slow ships for commerce and exploration. They have no military fleet. With respect, Chancellor, we were wrong. These ships are not new. Based on their design signatures, our analysts believe they are at least 50 years old. The humans have been hiding them all this time. The implication struck Vex like a physical blow. For half a century, humanity had maintained a secret military force. While their diplomats smiled and offered peace, their generals had been preparing for war. The species he had dismissed as weak and emotional had been playing a long game the collective never saw. Over the next 72 hours, the collective's military infrastructure began collapsing. Communication satellites disappeared. Supply ships vanished in transit. Command centers found their networks compromised by viruses so sophisticated they seemed almost alive. The collective had ruled through overwhelming force for centuries. They had never faced an enemy that fought with such calculated precision. But the human strategy went deeper than simple military strikes. Dr. Carter's psychological operations teams had been studying collective species for decades, and now they deployed that knowledge with devastating effect. The Theron Empire valued honor above all else. Human operatives released footage showing Theron commanders fleeing from battles, abandoning their soldiers, prioritizing their own survival. The footage was doctored, created by advanced computer systems, but it looked real enough. Within days, the Theron military was tearing itself apart with accusations of cowardice and betrayal. The Kralith operated through strict hierarchical order. Human computer viruses infiltrated their command structures and began issuing contradictory orders. Fleets received commands to move to 3 different locations simultaneously. Supply chains were redirected to empty space. The Kralith military descended into chaos as subordinates tried to follow impossible instructions from superiors who claimed they had never given those orders. The Nereids, the aquatic species, relied on their vast ocean worlds for security. Human engineers released microscopic drones into their water supplies. The drones were harmless, but they created bioluminescent displays that spelled out messages in the Nereid language. Every night the oceans glowed with words. "We can reach you anywhere. Your depths offer no protection. Surrender or watch your oceans turn to poison." The psychological impact was devastating. The Nereids had always believed their underwater cities were impenetrable. Now they realized humans could strike them in their homes, in their sacred spawning grounds, in places they had thought forever safe. Within 2 weeks, exactly as Vasquez had predicted, the collective military was blind, confused, and terrified. They still had more ships, more soldiers, more resources, but they had lost something more important. They had lost their confidence. High Chancellor Vex called an emergency council session. The 8 species representatives gathered, but the atmosphere had changed. Instead of arrogance, Vex saw fear in their eyes. "The humans have destroyed 17% of our military capacity," Vex reported. "More critically, they have compromised our command and control systems. We cannot trust our own communications. We cannot coordinate fleet movements. We cannot protect our supply lines. How is this possible?" demanded the Goron representative, his stone-like features cracking with stress. "They are scientists and merchants. Where did they get this military capability?" "They always had it," Vex admitted bitterly. "For 50 years, while we dismissed them as weak, they were preparing. While our intelligence services reported on their peaceful colonies, they were hiding fleets in deep space. While we mocked their compassion, they were studying us, learning our weaknesses, planning how to destroy us." The Kralith representative clicked in agitation. "We must counterattack. Show them we are still strong." "With what?" Vex snapped. "Every time we mobilize a fleet, it gets hit by surprise attacks. Every time we try to coordinate a response, our communications fail. The humans are not fighting us in open battle. They are dismantling us piece by piece, and they are doing it without even showing us their full strength." The council fell silent. They had started this war believing humanity would surrender quickly or die bravely. Instead, they faced an enemy that fought unlike anything they had encountered before. An enemy that had spent decades preparing for this exact scenario. "We should negotiate," suggested the Nereid representative quietly. "Perhaps we can still reach a peaceful settlement." Vex laughed bitterly. "I tried to contact Ambassador Torres this morning. His office sent back a single message. Humanity no longer accepts diplomatic communications from the collective. All future interactions will be conducted through military channels only." The words chilled everyone in the room. The humans had closed the door to peace. They were not interested in negotiation anymore. They wanted something else. Something the collective was beginning to fear they could not stop. On Earth in the Geneva War Room, Commander Vasquez reviewed the latest reports with satisfaction. Phase 1 had exceeded all projections. The collective was reeling, confused, desperate. But she felt no joy in the victories. Every successful strike was proof that humanity had been right to prepare for war. Right to hide weapons in the darkness. Right to never fully trust that peace would last. Ambassador Torres entered the war room, looking diminished in civilian clothes after spending his entire career in diplomatic uniform. He approached Vasquez with slow steps. "I watched the operation reports," Torres said quietly. "We are winning." "Yes, sir. At what cost?" Torres asked. "What have we become?" Vasquez met his eyes. "We became what they forced us to become. You spent 25 years showing them humanity's best qualities. They rejected all of it. Now I am showing them the other side. The side we kept hidden because we hoped we would never need it." Torres nodded slowly. "I know it had to be this way. But I cannot help wondering if there was something more I could have done. Some argument I did not make. Some gesture I did not offer." "You did everything possible," Vasquez said firmly. "You gave them every chance to choose peace. They chose war instead. That choice was theirs, not yours. Now we finish what they started." Torres looked at the tactical displays showing collective forces in disarray. When you finish, Commander, please remember who we were before this. Remember that we are capable of building as well as destroying. Do not let this war change us so much that we cannot find our way back to being the species that believes in peace. Vasquez placed a hand on his shoulder. I promise you, Ambassador, when this is over, we will find our way home. But first we have to survive. And survival means showing the galaxy that humanity is not a species to be dismissed or destroyed. We tried your way first. Now they meet mine. The war was just beginning, but already the collective was learning a terrible lesson. The most dangerous species in the galaxy was not the one that always chose violence. It was the one that chose peace first and kept the capacity for overwhelming force hidden in reserve. The one that spent decades hoping diplomacy humanity had tried peace. Now the collective would face the consequences of rejecting it. The new balance 4 months into the war, the collective council gathered in an emergency bunker deep beneath the Theran homeworld. The once proud chamber designed to showcase the strength of 8 united species now felt like a tomb. Half the representatives wore bandages from recent attacks. All of them carried the weight of billions of casualties. Supreme Commander Zira of the Theran Empire stood at the head of the table. Her scales, once vibrant gold, had faded to dull bronze. She had led collective military forces for 30 years, winning every campaign, crushing every enemy. Until now. The latest casualty reports, she said, her voice hollow. Total military losses exceed 68%. Civilian deaths from collateral damage remain minimal, which somehow makes this worse. The humans are not trying to exterminate us. They are trying to break us. The Kralith representative Tsik clicked his mandibles weakly. Our fleets cannot coordinate. Our supply lines are severed. Our communication networks are compromised. We have lost strategic control of 42 star systems, and we still have not seen the full human fleet in open battle. They are dismantling us without ever showing their true strength. Perhaps that is the point, said the Nereid representative, her voice bubbling through her translation device. They want us to know they are holding back. They want us to fear what they have not yet deployed. Zira looked around the table at faces that had once been confident, even arrogant. Now they showed only exhaustion and fear. The collective had ruled through overwhelming force for 3 centuries. They had believed their military superiority was unassailable. The humans had shattered that belief in just 4 months. We must discuss the unthinkable, Zira said. Surrender! The word hung in the air like poison. The Goran representative, his stone-like features cracking with age and stress, spoke first. The collective has never surrendered. Not in 300 years. Our legacy is built on strength. Our legacy is built on bones, Zira corrected. And now those bones include billions of our own people. The humans have demonstrated they can destroy us completely whenever they choose. They are showing restraint we did not show them. Perhaps we should be grateful for that restraint while it lasts. She activated a holographic display showing the current tactical situation. Red markers indicated collective forces. Blue markers showed confirmed human fleet positions. But vast sections of space showed no human markers at all, despite clear evidence of human operations there. Look at this map, Zira said. We know the humans are operating in these regions. We have seen the results of their attacks, but we cannot find their ships. We cannot track their movements. We cannot predict their strikes. They have technological superiority we cannot match and strategic thinking we cannot counter. What about our reserve fleets? Asked the Theran military advisor. Zira's scales darkened. 3 days ago, we mobilized our reserve battle groups from secure storage facilities. 12 complete fleets representing 30% of our remaining military capacity. They were our final strategic reserve, kept hidden for exactly this kind of emergency. She paused, and everyone in the room understood what was coming. The humans destroyed all 12 fleets before they could leave their staging areas. They knew where our reserves were hidden. They knew our activation protocols. They knew our deployment schedules. They have been watching us for decades, learning everything about our military while we dismissed them as merchants and scientists. The silence that followed was crushing. The collective's greatest weapon had always been their ability to deploy overwhelming force. But the humans had neutralized that advantage by knowing exactly where that force was hidden and striking, before it could be used. How do we surrender to an enemy that refuses to communicate with us? Asked the Kralith representative. We find someone they will talk to, Zira said. She activated another display, showing a haggard face that everyone recognized. Ambassador David Torres, looking decades older than he had 4 months ago, stared out from a human broadcast. The humans released this message yesterday, Zira explained. It was transmitted to every inhabited world in collective space. Torres's recorded voice filled the chamber. To the peoples of the collective, your leaders chose this war. Your commanders ordered the attacks on human colonies. Your councils voted to destroy us. But you, the civilians caught in this conflict, deserve to understand what is happening and why. The image shifted to show tactical displays, intelligence reports, and historical records. Torres continued speaking, his voice carrying the weight of profound sadness. For 25 years, humanity pursued peace. We shared our culture, our technology, our friendship. We asked only to be treated as equals. Your leaders rejected every offer. They saw our compassion as weakness and our patience as cowardice. When they finally attacked our worlds, they believed we would surrender or die quickly. Torres's expression hardened. They were wrong. The humans they destroyed were our teachers, our farmers, our artists, the people who believed peace was always possible. But humanity has another side. The side that survived predators, plagues, and wars that lasted centuries. The side that learned to fight so well that we scared ourselves into choosing peace. Your leaders forced us to remember how to be that other humanity. The recorded message showed footage of collective military installations being destroyed with surgical precision. Human ships moving like ghosts through space. Entire fleets vanishing without trace. We are not fighting this war to exterminate you, Torres said. We are fighting to ensure you never threaten us again. We are showing you that humanity can match any violence you bring and exceed it. We are teaching you the lesson you refused to learn peacefully, that compassion is not weakness. That choosing peace is not the same as being unable to fight. The message ended with Torres looking directly into the camera. This war can end whenever your leaders choose. All they must do is ask. But know this, when peace comes, it will be on humanity's terms. Never again will we beg for the right to exist. Never again will we accept being dismissed as weak. Your leaders taught us that the universe only respects strength. We have shown you we possess that strength. Now they must accept the consequences of their choices. Zira stopped the playback. The humans are bypassing our authority and speaking directly to our civilians. They are undermining our legitimacy while simultaneously demonstrating they could kill everyone if they chose. It is brilliant strategy. They are making us look like the villains while they play the role of reluctant warriors. Because that is what they are, said the Nereid representative quietly. Everything Ambassador Torres said is true. We attacked them first. We rejected their peace offers. We called them weak. They warned us what would happen if we forced them to fight. We did not listen, Zira nodded slowly. Which brings us to the question, how do we ask for surrender when we executed the one human who had authority to negotiate peace? Ambassador Torres is still alive, said the collective intelligence officer, stepping forward with new information. We believed we killed him when we destroyed Unity Station, but he survived. He has been coordinating civilian evacuations while the human military conducts the war. Hope flickered in Zira's eyes for the first time in months. Can we contact him? He has agreed to meet with you, Supreme Commander, alone, unarmed, on neutral ground. He will hear your surrender proposal. The meeting took place on an abandoned mining station in neutral space. Zira arrived with minimal escort, as agreed. She found Torres waiting in what had once been the station's observation lounge. He stood looking out at the stars, his hands clasped behind his back. Ambassador Torres, Zira said, approaching slowly. Thank you for agreeing to meet. Torres turned. His face showed scars from burns and he moved with a slight limp. But his eyes held the same patient intelligence she remembered from their last meeting. Supreme Commander Zira, you wanted to discuss surrender terms. Zira felt her pride crack. She had commanded fleets that conquered worlds. She had never imagined speaking these words. The Collective Council offers unconditional surrender. We will withdraw from all contested territories. We will pay reparations. We will submit to human oversight of our military. We will accept any terms you offer. Just please stop the destruction. Torres studied her for a long moment. Do you understand why this happened? Yes, Zira said quietly. We mistook your kindness for weakness. We believed that because you chose peace, you were incapable of war. We were wrong. You were wrong about something more fundamental, Torres said. You believed that strength and compassion were opposites. That to be powerful meant being cruel. That showing mercy was the same as being helpless. You could not imagine a species that chose to be gentle while having the capacity to be terrible. He walked to the window and gestured at the stars. Out there, My people are demonstrating what happens when you force us to choose violence over peace. But do you know what disturbs me most? How good we are at it. How easily we remembered all the terrible things we spent centuries trying to forget. You did not just start a war, Commander. You reminded humanity what we are capable of when we stop restraining ourselves. What are your terms? Zira asked. Torres pulled out a datapad and handed it to her. Complete demilitarization of collective forces. Human observers stationed on every collective world. All military technology submitted for inspection and potential destruction. Reparations paid over 50 years. A formal apology broadcast to every human settlement. And most importantly, mandatory education programs teaching your children what really happened in this war. Zira read through the terms. They were harsh but not impossible. The collective would survive, though greatly diminished. We accept. There is one more condition, Torres said. Every species in the collective must contribute to building a memorial on Earth. A monument to the humans who died believing peace was possible. I want your children to see that monument and understand that the people we lost were not warriors or soldiers. They were dreamers who thought different species could live together in harmony. They were right, but you killed them before they could prove it. Tears formed in Zira's eyes, something her species rarely displayed. We will build your monument, Ambassador, and we will teach our children the truth, that the collective started a war it could not win against people who never wanted to fight. Torres nodded. The formal surrender will take place in 1 week. On Earth, in the ruins of Unity Station where this war began. The galaxy will watch, and they will learn what happens to species that mistake humanity's preference for peace as inability to wage war. 6 months after the war began, representatives from all 8 collective species stood in the rebuilt Unity Station. The structure had been reconstructed exactly as it was, except for one addition. A wall made of transparent crystal contained the names of every human who died in the initial attacks. Nearly 2 million names glowed softly in the starlight. Commander Vasquez stood beside Ambassador Torres as the collective representatives signed the surrender documents. Her military had won the war in less time than most conflicts took to organize. She felt no triumph, only exhaustion. What happens now? She asked Torres quietly. Now we try to remember who we were before we became good at killing. Torres replied. We rebuilt this station not as a symbol of victory, but as a reminder. Every time we meet with other species here, we will see those names. We will remember what peace cost us, and we will remember why we chose peace in the first place. The signing ceremony concluded. The collective representatives left in shame. Their once mighty alliance reduced to monitored territories under human supervision. Across the galaxy, other species watched and learned. Humanity had demonstrated something more frightening than superior weapons or tactical brilliance. They had shown that the most dangerous species was not the one that always fought, but the one that chose peace first and kept the capacity for overwhelming violence in reserve. Torres approached the memorial wall and placed his hand against the crystal. Behind him, Earth rotated peacefully, just as it had before the war. But everything had changed. Humanity had proven it could survive anything the galaxy threw at them. They had shown they could be builders and destroyers, diplomats and warriors, teachers and soldiers. We tried peace, Torres whispered to the names glowing in the crystal. I hope you understand why we had to stop. I hope you would forgive what we became to survive. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity preferred peace, but preference was not the same as weakness. Compassion was not inability. Patience was not cowardice. And the most terrifying species in the universe was the one that could choose to be gentle while possessing the power to be terrible. The war was over. Peace had returned. But it was a different kind of peace now. One built not on hope and trust, but on respect and understanding. Other species no longer dismissed humanity as weak merchants and scientists. They saw humans for what they truly were, a species capable of building hospitals or battleships, of teaching children or commanding fleets, of choosing peace or delivering devastation, and they chose carefully which side of humanity they wanted to meet.